Good evening. I'm Courtney Graham with the Engagement Department at the Art Institute of Chicago. Welcome to today's virtual conversation on the occasion of the exhibition Noda Tetsuya, My Life in Print. The exhibition will be on view through December 6th. We're so glad to have you joining us virtually, and while we wish that we could welcome you in person, we hope that you find this digital format a great way to stay connected to the Art Institute from home. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers, artist Noda Tetsuya, his wife Dorit Bartur, and curator Janice Katz. Noda Tetsuya is one of the most successful contemporary print artists in the world. Through evocative prints, he depicts firsthand experiences of people, objects, and environments using his own unique printing process. We were so fortunate to speak with Noda and Dorit from their home studio outside of Tokyo. We'll jump right into that conversation and then be joined by the exhibition curator, Janice Katz, for some questions. Enjoy.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Janice Katz. I am Associate Curator of Japanese Art at the Art Institute of Chicago. And today I am very pleased to welcome you all to a conversation with the renowned print artist, Noda Tetsuya. And joining us also is his wife, Dorit. The Art Institute of Chicago exhibition that's up now, Noda Tetsuya, My Life in Print, is in the museum's Japanese print gallery, and it features prints from 1968 to 2013 that span the length of the artist's long career. He is perhaps one of the most diverse print artists in terms of subject matter. On view we have portraits, landscapes, still lifes, and three-dimensional works related to the prints. However, the one thing that they all have in common is that they are all personal and meaningful subjects, images that are taken from the artist's everyday life, documenting his family and events, which through his unique perspective and meticulous printing method are elevated to what is universal and meaningful to us all. They are all part of the same series called Diary. There are hundreds of works, each that are titled with the name Diary and then the day and the year, the date on which the photograph was taken that resulted in the finished print. And then many of them are finished with Noda-san's unique thumbprint dipped in red pigment. The exhibition is on view from February 29th to December 6th. And we just added in a few more key works, some of which we'll be discussing today. And for the exhibition at the Art Institute, what I wanted to do was highlight Noda-san's work as an international artist with an international point of view. So we've included many prints from his time in the States, in New York in 1970. There are also many images of his family, which is unusual for a Japanese artist to have such a focus on that which is deeply familiar and domestic subjects like family. And it's one of the ways that Noda's art stands apart from the major art movements in Japan in the 20th century. I also wanted to include works from collectors in Chicago and abroad who have known the artist and his work for decades. And so this is a show that we could only do in Chicago. Andrew Bay, David Snyder, and Naomi Pollock, Charles Motier, Jack Beam, as well as loans from the artist himself make up the works on view. And putting the show and the layout together was a very exciting collaborative process with the artist. And I'm happy to say that the labels for each print feature Noda-san's own explanations that are full of his characteristic humor and warmth. And the artist and his wife join us from Noda-san's home studio in Kashiwa, just outside of Tokyo, where I have been privileged to visit. So hello to you both.
Hello. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's early evening for us, but it's early morning for you. So I appreciate you being with us. It's wonderful to see you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
So I wanted to ask you first, that the show of your work at the Art Institute, it comes at a time when you're showing more internationally, as well as at large venues in Japan, such as the Ueno Royal Museum, which is in Ueno Park in Tokyo. And so I want to ask you, why is it meaningful to have your work shown in the US and in Chicago in particular right now?
Well, I have, well, thank you very much for showing my works at Art Institute, because I'm so grateful to you, and I'm very honored to have such an exhibition at such a prestigious museum. And my work are somehow connected to Chicago, not only in terms of process for making my works, but also for some other reason too. You know, one of the first American whom I met in Tokyo, I got to know in Tokyo, is as you already introduced, Jack Beam, who was working as a lawyer in Tokyo, and who he was interested in Japanese print, and has been collecting Japanese print, including my prints as well. You know, when I was teaching at the university, you know, the man at the Department of Printmaking at the university, you know, the man came to see me all of a sudden, and he said, I would like to show your works in Chicago. He is a Korean settled in Chicago and running a gallery in Chicago. I said, if you're Korean, why not to show my Korean assistant? Because I had a Korean assistant at that time. And so he said, no, I'm interested in your work and like to show your works in Chicago, by all means. And so.
This is Andrew Bay.
Andrew Bay. Andrew Bay. And so he has been showing my works until now. But needless to say, I'm very glad that many more, not only in Chicago, many more people, not only in Chicago, but also in the United States, have a chance to see my works, and also interested in my concern and my works.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you about the way that you create prints, because it really is, you know, very, very particular to you. This is a process that you yourself created and developed. So if you could tell us a bit about how your process of making prints came about, and especially your use of the mimeograph machine that you have in your studio. I think people would be very interested to learn how these images are created.
You know, I studied oil painting at the university because everybody had to, you know, we thought that we had to study painting in order to study art. And but you know, I could not make my own expression. So when looking for my own expression, I got to know that I was, you know, all of a sudden I got to know that I was keeping a picture diary at my primary school. Quite honestly, you see, when I brush my teeth, and I drew myself brushing my teeth, because I rarely brushed my teeth at that time. So this was one of the reasons why, you know, the idea of choosing a subject from my daily life came up to me by recording them with my camera. So I decided to use my camera, photograph in my work, as I wanted to capture the subject in an objective way, just as I used to write and draw my picture diary at my primary school. While looking for how to do it, I found that I could use the mimeograph printing machine to transfer the photo image. Well, you see, I have to transfer the photo image. If I use a photograph, I have to transfer the photo image onto paper.
Right.
And I found the mimeograph machine is perfect. So this machine was commonly used at that time. You see, not only at the university, but office, and maybe you probably had it at your office or at institutes, school of mimeograph machine. Mimeograph printing, as you know, you see the kind of the sensory printing like silkscreen. Well, by the way, this method had its root in Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, your printing method actually combines the mimeograph and the silkscreen and woodblock printing.
Mimeograph is a silkscreen.
Mimeograph is the silkscreen.
Silkscreen, because I use a silk, silk screen here, as you can see it by my background.
Right, right.
And
I think you have a few slides for us to show us exactly how a print gets created. But first, you found these wonderful ads about how the mimeograph machine got its start.
I know the famous inventor, that's the famous inventor, American inventor, Thomas Edison.
Right.
He invented electric pen in order to make a stencil. And he got the patent, US patent. And then after that, the man living in Chicago by the name of Albert Dick, you see, who had the lumber company in Chicago, licensed Edison's patent, and then started to manufacture and sell a set of flatbed duplicator by the name of Edison mimeograph, like this, as you can see now, the company's ad. He seems to have his company first on the Lake Street in Chicago. Can you show the next slide? You see, as you can see in this advertising, in the bottom it says that his office was on the Lake Street, Chicago. Wow. And then they moved their headquarters to, believe it or not, can you imagine where they moved to?
Somewhere more prominent than Lake Street?
No, to the same street of, one of the streets of AIC, Art Institute of Chicago. As you can see,
Michigan Avenue.
Of the company in the next slide. You see in the bottom, it says Jackson Boulevard.
Jackson.
I think you are one of the streets which Art Institute face is the Jackson Drive, I think. Jackson's Drive, I think.
Yeah, Jackson is very, very close to the museum.
Yeah.
So it's incredible to think that the mimeograph machine was developed right around there, and we've come now full circle showing your works that use a slightly more modern version of this. I think you also have some slides and a video showing exactly how your prints come to life.
This is, if you want to know the process, just I can show you shortly, quickly about my process. I take a photograph, as I told you, I use a photograph. I take a photograph, enlarge a photograph to the appropriate size. and then I retouch the photograph with, or alter it on it with pencil or watercolors in order to get into my own expression. And
Great.
then you see, in the meantime, then show me the next one. You see, in the meantime, I carved the woodblock for white background and also the colored area. Each of and then print each of those areas, first. And then
I want the viewers to be able to see that on the print that's being peeled off the block, there's actually white pigment as the background to the color. And these subtle inclusions of white or neutral tones, whether it's white, ivory, gray, are things that are not immediately noticeable, but have a great effect on the resulting image. So I just wanted to point that out.
I am just making gradation here by moving a brush back and forth a couple of times. Yeah. This is a mimeograph stencil cutting machine. This is a new one. And so you see, I then feed a retouched photograph into an electric mimeograph stencil cutting machine, which makes a perforated stencil of the image with electric needle, just like Edison's electric pen. This machine translates image into stencil.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, it is. Rolling stencil paper. And right-hand side, we touch the photograph. And this machine translates image into stencil by burning a tiny holes into mimeograph paper.
The machine that you use in your studio is from the 1960s, is that right?
Yes.
Maybe
yes.
70s.
Maybe 70s.
Yes.
70s, yeah. 60s, 70s.
60s.
And it's a type of mimeograph called a Gestetner machine.
Yeah, that's you said. And I think Gestetner are used in the United States. That's right. Yeah, Gestetner is a British maker, I think.
Can I ask you a question that might be on some people's minds, which is, since your machine, the machine that you're using is from a while back, where do you get the mimeograph paper from?
That's a good question. The papers.
Well,
they don't make them anymore.
They're not making it anymore.
So if you can find a source, then you just stockpile it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're getting to an important part in the process here with using the roller.
And then this is, using the stencil. I printed with roller over the area. Previously printed woodblock print technique onto washi, which means that I print a woodblock print first, woodblock print image first, and then on the top of the woodblock print image, I print mimeograph. You can see the finished print at the left-hand side. It's interesting to compare the Edison's, technique with my technique.
Exactly. And you were telling me earlier that your technique has not changed very much over the years, although your prints have gotten larger.
Well, because I have been making, the print in relation to my daily life, so that you see, printing techniques have been basically the same, remained the same.
And if you want to make a larger image than can fit in the machine, you have to cut up the image into various pieces.
Yes,
Right.
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you so much. I mean, looking at the finished prints, it's impossible to tell how they're done. But the care that's taken, the process is so incredibly meticulous, resulting in these very highly refined, gorgeous images, you know, with subtle neutral colors or pops of bright color. And it lends the finished print this kind of, you know, veil of haziness, you know, almost like a newsprint. That the image is made up of various dots resulting from the stylus inside the mimeograph, and it just lends this kind of ethereal quality to these images that were in their original state very, very realistic and photographic.
Oh, thank you.
And Dorit, I wanted to ask you as well. You're the subject of many of Noda-san's prints, and you know, his family is such an important subject in his work. It's your family too.
Yeah.
You know, your parents. So I wonder, how does it feel, you know, having your children grow up alongside these works, and seeing, you know, yourself pictured over the course of so many years. What do you feel about being, you know, such a consistent subject for your husband's work?
Oh, yes. I mean, you know, when he first did my family, it was shown in the family portraits, both family, his family and my family. It was in a gallery in Ginza and in Yosedo Print Gallery. And he worked in a studio, so I didn't know in a different place, so I didn't know what he was doing. And all of a sudden, I went to the gallery and I see my family with the names, my father, my mother, my brother, my sister. So I always think that he's like a magician, that he likes to surprise people, to do something that is so magical. And well, that's how it's always surprises us. He never tells us before what he's going to do.
You know what, Dorit, that reminds me, it's because in this picture, Tetsuya is holding, you know, the clicker for the camera. So you're taking a photograph, you're taking a family photograph, but you had no idea that this would become a print.
At that time, I knew that he took many pictures because it was my son's 1-year birthday, but we didn't know if it will become a print or not.
So you never know.
So we never know, and many people suggest all kinds of things to him. You should do this, you should do this, why don't you do this? So
No, when I actually, you see, when I started to make my works with a photo of my family and friends, and many people, you see, they wondered how I dare showing my private life in public. You know, but look, and nowadays, many people are showing and exposing, you know, such private materials in Facebook and blog and Instagram, and it's very interesting. I think, generally speaking, artists are concerned about themselves. Artists, you know, artistic creation is after all private and individual activity. So although my family got used to my activity, I hope my work will bring a good memory to them as well in the future.
Mm. And how does your daughter feel about being the subject of so many of the prints? Actually, this is her when she was quite young. This one was taken in 1979, but we have another one of her as a young woman with you, Dorit, with her mother, which I think we have next. And I understand she actually asked you. This is probably one of the rare instances in which you agreed to do a print when you were asked to do a print of a photograph.
Yes, that was when she came for the holidays. She was studying in the United States, and she came for summer holidays, and she asked him to compare our profile, our nose, whose nose is bigger. And well, it became a very, very, you know, touching. Now that I look at it, it's very nostalgic for us to remember these times. And well, yes, I think she also, when she was growing up, she didn't like everything to be shown to everybody. But now that she's a photographer and she loves art, she appreciates in a better way, I think.
I mean, this is in this portrait. It's a picture of mother and daughter, and you think of it very fondly, but it's not sentimental. It's not, you know, overly sentimentalized. So it's not overly precious. It's been, you know, given you know, this haze of graduated grays and blues. And so this really gives it a kind of gravity and elevates the work into something that stands for, you know, mother and daughter, you know, not just you and Rika. And I think in that way, people can, when they view these works, they see things that they themselves can relate to, or that have, you know, a kind of universal element to them, in a way very different from somebody showing family photographs.
Right, I agree, very much so. So it's completely not connected to what, you know, what the family is, but it's how he, you know, how he wants to express things about everyday life. So when people
I mean, even you know, the expressions that you have and the way that, you know, you're staring at the camera, and it really just grabs you, and they're so beautifully printed. This is one of my favorite works in the exhibition. And what do we have next for an image? Oh, yes. This is also one of my favorites, but for a very different reason. This print is entitled Diary, March 12th, 2011. And I wanted you to speak to this image because it's not intuitive, you know, what it's an image of. But given that date of March 12th, 2011, I think most people would understand that it was the day after the large earthquake and tsunami in Japan, in Tokyo. And so can you describe to us, Noda-san, what's going on in the image?
This is the next day of, you know, when after the huge earthquake struck Japan. I was on my way to the opening reception for the Rembrandt exhibition in Tokyo, in Ueno Park. I was late for the reception, but I was fortunate to see the exhibition. And as the train stopped running, and I had to stay, not only, you know, the viewers, and not only myself, but also people had to stay overnight at the museum. So I slept with Rembrandt, and well, I didn't sleep in front of Rembrandt prints and painting. In the lecture hall. You see that the museum very organized, and we are provided with water, mineral water, also some biscuit, and also, or even a sleeping bag. So we we slept in between, in the lecture hall. And
it was comfortable, right?
It was comfortable, yes, yes, so organized. And they are so organized for the emergency problem.
But I mean, when you returned home and you saw the news on TV, I mean, here you see the newscaster, and you've got with you the things that you had picked up the night before, and it's probably the first moment you really had to understand what was going on and reflect and think.
I was shocked about the powerful tsunami and also the explosion of the nuclear power plant in the Tohoku area, Tohoku northeast of Tokyo.
Yes.
And no, it's really something unbelievable. I mean, that's why it's a personal, but everybody can understand this. Every Japanese felt the same shell shock, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there are moments when these major world events make their way into your prints that are mostly of your your daily life and your own family and travel. But when these major events do make their ways into your works of art, they do in a very personal way. But it's also I think incredibly moving. I also wanted to ask you another way that your experience comes through in your prints is by your sense of humor. I think that comes through very clearly in some of your works. This is a work that's actually not in the exhibition, but it's in the museum's collection. And when I see this, I have to laugh, and I just I think of your joy in creating it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
When making my work, I have no intention to do something special. I would rather take it easy and enjoy working by adding some humor, rather than being bothered by aesthetic theories or philosophical concepts.
This is a very advanced theory that everybody likes bacon.
Yeah, this was a time that when playing with daughter's computer, I found that it's not difficult to deform the face with this computer. So I immediately thought of the Francis Bacon, and since I was eating a snack, which the raw snack, raw ham, with raw ham, which my daughter prepared. So I changed the ham into bacon, and dedicating this work to the Francis Bacon. Well, the line in the background, I put the lines which Francis Bacon likes to, oftentimes use this composition in order to emphasize and examine the space. So that's what you can see in my background.
And you've got your characteristic wire-rimmed glasses on. We also have another portrait of you, which was done upon your retirement from teaching at the Tokyo University Arts or Geidai. And this too is actually, you have a serious expression, but it's also very humorous.
Well, I receive, before retiring the university, I receive a handy pension notebook. So I thought it's a good commemoration day that I received such a handy pension notebook. It's a time of transition to think about past and also my life from now on.
I also wanted to ask you about the objects that we have on view. Now, these are three-dimensional works that you created at different times throughout your career that relate to the prints oftentimes. But I think the same sensibility that you use in creating your prints comes out in these works as well. You know, the care that you take in recreating, you know, the most mundane of objects, you know, is absolutely astounding to me, that, you know, you can see beauty and art and meaning in these objects of daily life, and recreate them so carefully and lovingly.
Everything I always think that I can do with an expression that I know nothing about. So in the case of this one, right-hand side, that's the pliers, which I had. And when you see on this day, my friend wrote a can of foie gras. You know foie gras?
Foie gras.
Yes.
He wrote it, well, it's expensive, we have never eaten it before. It's a very expensive one. But you see, there's no can opener attached to the can. And I also could not find the can opener at home. So we had to use a plier. So this is a commemoration of a very, very special day when we had foie gras.
And lastly, you have to tell us about the ashtray with all the cigarette butts in it. It's cast in bronze.
Yeah, this was inspired by the cigarette butts smoked by my son. And well, anyway, you know, the reason and motivation for making this work is that I would like my son to stop smoking. And, you know, at that time, this was the period, this was a period when we also started to talk about, you know,
hazards.
Various health hazards caused by smoking. So I made it. I casted it directly from the cigarette butt. You know, we have very good nowadays glue, the liquid glue. I drop the glue in order to, you see, to make it harder, make the cigarette hard, and so that I could cast it directly from the cigarette and ashtray.
It seems that you're you know, experimenting with these materials always turns out something very very finished and what you intended, which is quite something to have a mastery of all these different materials when primarily you work with prints. And you know, having these three-dimensional works on view, which I don't think they've been on view before in an exhibition, they really lend another sense to your work. They're of course included in the catalog of all of your works, the catalog raisonné that came out a few years ago. But to have them in the exhibition, it kind of gives further insight into how you choose your subject matter and the care with which you know, you create something that is a gorgeous work of art that's you know, that's been thoughtfully conceived and made into something that everybody can understand and appreciate and even smile at and have a laugh. So I'm very glad to be able to include those also in the exhibition, which they were very eye-opening for me. I just want to thank you both for making the time to talk to me today, and for, of course, your part in helping to create the exhibition, and for being wonderful collaborators. And I'm so glad that the exhibition is on view for several months, giving people a chance to come see it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are so happy to have this occasion and to talk to you and reflect about all the aspects of the works that you pointed out so brilliantly.
Thank you both so much.
Hi, Janice. That was such a lovely conversation. I think we're ready to take a few questions from the audience now. Our first question, if someone did not have a mimeograph, what technique would be similar? Perhaps photo etching?
If someone didn't have a mimeograph machine, what are the other methods of printing that are available? Well, there are so many printing methods that are used today. Of course, there is photo etching, which is one that is very common for transferring a photo-like image onto a print. That certainly comes to mind. But there are many other methods. I think what makes Noda's print so interesting is that he starts with a photograph, but then he changes it into something completely different and combines it with the silkscreen and the woodblock. So he is making reference to traditional woodblock printing in a way that a lot of contemporary artists are not when they use methods that were created in the West, things that are more, globally practiced. So he's both using a photograph, something extremely modern, but then he's also using woodblock prints in a more traditional way, and combining these methods, which other artists do as well, but nobody does it quite like Noda-san does.
Wonderful, thank you. Our next question, some prints are black and white or monochromatic, while others have a bit of color added to them. Is there inspiration for the different color additions?
You know what, that's a great question, because one of the things that I hope to talk about with the artist when we had our conversation was his sense of color. This is something that I find absolutely incredible, and it especially comes out in his still life prints. For example, there's a print that we just rotated into the exhibition that shows fruit, stems with fruit in a beautiful glass vase, and the fruit is this stunning green color. It's such a bright green, and it really stands out from the rest of the print, which is monochromatic. And so his sense of color, which he doesn't use often, is incredible. When he does use it, it's these very bright pops of color that really stand out to something that relates, the kind of distinctive green of a plant, or the purple of a flower. And so I think his use of color is impeccable, and it especially stands out against his monochromatic works. Most of his portraits, I believe, are monochromatic.
How did you first come across Noda's work?
Well, I first saw Noda's work in our own collection, of course, in the collection of the Art Institute of Chicago. We've had works by Noda-san, early works of his that are in the exhibition from 1968, of him and his wife sitting in chairs facing the opposite way. So we see their backs and we see the back of the chairs. Those works have been in the Art Institute since the 1980s. Of course, I haven't been in the Art Institute since the 1980s, but when I came to the museum, of course, looked through the collection, and I thought those were extremely striking. But also in getting to know collectors and visiting their homes and seeing their works throughout Chicago, I got to know of Noda-san and admire his work greatly, and also get to know him a little bit personally, indirectly through his great friends. And then I think I met Noda-san for the first time at a gallery opening. Noda had mentioned Andrew Bay's gallery, and that the openings there were great occasions for Noda-san and Dorit to come to Chicago. And we were able to get to know each other then. And since then, I've been enjoying seeing Noda's work exhibited throughout the world. He's had major shows at the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco and at the British Museum. And of course, by this time, I had already visited Noda-san at his studio and was able to actually see the mimeograph machine in action and see the print that he was making at that time, which is now, of course, one of the many prints that is in his is in his catalog. And I was there when he was making this particular work, and so it was that moment in time. And I think many people who get to know the artist and his work remember the prints that he created at that moment in time, and when they met him. And then going forward, everything is after that. Everything is either before or after that.
So I think we have time for one last question. What do you hope that guests will take away from viewing the exhibition?
Well, I hinted at this during my introduction, but what I really want people to take away from the exhibition is that Japanese prints and the prints that we show in our Japanese print gallery, they can't be categorized as specific to one culture or even one country. That is so true with Noda-san's work. He is someone who has lived in some ways a very typical 20th, 21st century life, traveling all over the world, trying to come to terms with the different people and cultures he meets, trying to honor his friendships, and certainly his great love for his family comes out. So it's something that's really, I think, borderless and timeless.
Thank you so much, Janice. And thank you all for joining us for this evening's program on Noda Tetsuya, My Life in Print. Again, the exhibition will be on view through December 6th. For more information on upcoming virtual events, please visit us online at artic.edu and look for our monthly e-news in your inboxes. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Good night.
Good night.